Good afternoon, YouTube friends. It's Filter Free with Natalie, and it is Sunday. So I was going to do two videos today. One was the first Spiritual Sunday, and then the other is introductory about me, so you'll know who I am. And first thing I am is someone who has a lot to learn about doing YouTube. I've spent a lot of time today trying to figure out how to do what I was going to do for Sunday. So instead I'm going to say, let's go to head. Don't do anything bad to goats. I'm going to just do the about me video. I'm also not feeling great. I'm starting to wind down into a way that does not feel good. So I'm going to talk to you about who I am and what I'm on this channel for, what its purpose is, and what you can expect out of it. If none of that sounds fun for you, then go find something more fun. I understand, and you can come back later. I'll make it as interesting as possible. But anyway, my name is Natalie. I chose to call my channel Filter Free because I have lots of things that I would filter if I could. My hair loss and acne and other things, and I don't really see a point in it anymore. That's why I shave my head, because even if I were to grow my hair out, it doesn't look any better. I'm kind of at an in-between right now, and I do have some tricks that I use. I used a little bit today so that I can show you. Also, I put on a little makeup for you today for our intro video, but don't get used to that, because I don't usually, I don't put on my face, okay? I just get up and here's my face. But I did this for you so that you can see that I am capable and I'm aware that there are things that I can do to improve the quality of my face value. But according to Dolly Parton, all I have to do is smile. So that's me. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. So if you hear an accent, that's where it's from. If you don't hear an accent and wonder why, it's because I grew up in Alpharetta, which we always called the north of the South. There was a lot of people there that were not originally from the South, so I got a more even accent than some may have gotten, but I can turn it on. I just try not to. So before I get into me, the purpose of this channel is to discuss, I'm at the beginning of finding out that I have autoimmune hepatitis with cirrhosis that is, well, there's a disagreement about it really between me and my doctor about whether it's compensated or not, and I'll get into that more on Medical Monday. I'm not going to go into all that, but that by itself, I had no idea how much that could complicate your life. And if you don't know anything about the liver, you should learn. Everybody should have to take a test on the liver so they know what they're doing once they turn 18 and 21 and everything else. And there's tons of videos on the scary medical side of what autoimmune hepatitis is. But let me clarify, it is not contagious. This is not Hep C or A or B. This is not viral. I didn't catch it doing anything good or otherwise. It is autoimmune. For those of you who don't understand that phrase, it is that my body thinks that my liver and my liver cells are foreign invaders, and their job, the immune system's job, is to fight that invader. So right now, and for however long it's been going on, unbeknownst to me, my body has been trying to attack my liver because it's just trying to do its job, and there's some wires crossed, and it is not fun at all. Put autoimmune anything is not fun at all, and there's a big family of people that even though I don't have what they have and they don't have what I have, there's lots of overlap in the symptoms. For a long time they thought it was lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and do some diligent research on autoimmune. I will give you some places you can look and read that are reputable on a medical day. But the main reason why I'm wanting to do this channel is because I am at the beginning of all of this. All that I have had done is, besides all the pain and everything that I've had to go through, I've had my biopsy to confirm my diagnosis, and I'm in the first month of treatment. So I wanted to start this channel to kind of keep a log of what works and what doesn't, what changes and what doesn't. It's very individual. Like the medications and things like that, and things that I can't take now or can't eat now or should eat, and it's ridiculous. If you can just take good care of your liver, it would be so much easier. Just take care of your liver. Don't have as much sugar as you normally do. If you can avoid things like this and diabetes, your life will be so much better no matter how bad it is. I promise you that. So moving on, or moving back rather, from Atlanta, Georgia. I've lived in, I think, 6 places by now. I've always been that person who's sort of searching. I was always a late bloomer. I mean, my dad had to tell me, it's probably time to put your Barbies away. I was like, but why? I love my Barbies. We probably have another reason why we know that now. Isn't that right, wife?
That's right.
That's right. But my dad, his goal was to make sure that I didn't go through adolescence and into teenagehood the blunder that I was as a child. So he did a really good job with that. My mom always encouraged me to do anything I could put my mind to, which if she had known how literally I would have taken that, she might have worded it differently. But both of my parents, at one point or another in my life, have been very supportive of me and very understanding of me traveling and moving and doing all these things besides what everybody expects me to do. Everybody expects you to do certain things. My best friend, her husband, has a very set thought process on this, and it's not a dig. It's just everybody has a certain thing they think. You know, the people that go to Ironman competitions, I don't share values with them, or I wouldn't be fat, among other things. You know, just it's not for everyone. So lost my thought. Part of my disease is that I have the very beginning stages of hepatic encephalopathy, also an argument I'm having with my doctor's team right now. But it's clear when I'm in the middle of saying something and I don't know where that thought went. Do you remember what I was saying, Andy?
You're talking about your parents.
Yeah, great parents. Such great parents. I'm never going to do that again. But they really are great parents. And I have been a child of divorced parents for my entire life. So while on one hand, that's kind of sad. I've never had the experience my wife had, which was both her parents in one house, their whole lives, her whole life. And I am the absolute opposite. The only thing keeping me from being a military brat is nobody was in the military while we were moving around. It was more like the 80s singles situation where they would move, they would hike the rent or something would change or whatever. So I went to a different school. Every elementary year was a different school year, although one was repetitive. I went to one school twice, but a different school in between. And then in middle school, I was in one school. In high school, were 2. So it's not that bad, but I moved a lot. And so it shouldn't come as a surprise to my parents or anyone else that I kept needing to do that afterwards. I have up until now anyway, I've had this 2-year threshold. At about the 2-year mark, if I'm not fully satisfied and fully feeling like I'm doing my purpose, I lose the passion for what I'm doing. I get bored. I look for something else. I move. I change my job. I've been a massage therapist. I've been in healthcare. I've been in banking. I mean, I was looking for who I was without realizing that that's not how you do it. But I got a lot of good experience from those things, and one friend in particular let me kind of invite myself onto her particular journey that I think was probably supposed to be some sort of individual soul journey that I just said, that sounds great. I want to come to do that too. And so we did. Traveled from Colorado. I stored my car and we traveled up through Wyoming, Montana, went across Idaho, Washington State, went up to Canada, then all the way down the California coast to LA, and then back up through the Grand Canyon, and we saw Las Vegas and the Hoover Dam. There's a big wall that keeps a lot of water out. Now you know what it is. Maybe I'm just not that impressed. Maybe I'm too close to it. It's just it's a dam. I'm gonna go on the dam tour. Anyway, we did a lot of that. Went up through Moab, Utah, and then landed back in Colorado. It was a 6-week-long camping trip, and there was no glamping about it. There was one of two things. There was camping, literal camping, or there was hotel, because there are certain places where we both agreed we were not camping. And then in Malibu, I got the flu or something from lunch, a testament to the fact that you can get sick from eating food that someone has prepared if they are not preparing it, washing their hands or covering their face or whatever. It was a hibachi, one of my favorite things. I love Japanese food. I love hibachi. Blame my dad. He introduced me to it. And I hadn't eaten. I needed to eat. My travel mate was the opposite on needing to eat. She was more like, when she's about to pass out, she eats a cube of cheese. I'm exaggerating, but she decided to go on a bike ride instead, so we would meet back up. Worked out fine, except that what I ate, which was at the time delicious, made me very, very sick. I had to go to an urgent care in Malibu and get antibiotics and all this other stuff, and we were basically stuck in Malibu for 3 days, which we would have left sooner. We planned our days. We would have left sooner if I hadn't been sick. And we tried to say, we tried our social distancing. We just had no idea that's what we were doing, because up until last month, I had never even heard that phrase. And it took another 2 or 3 weeks for someone to explain it to the public at large. I guess we're just supposed to know what it means. Like we're not cats. We don't just come out and know how to use a litter box like they do. So anyway, here we go again with me and not remembering what I was going to say. But yeah, I got really sick in Malibu. So our next stop was, after that was the Grand Canyon and the dam tour, and then my travel mate got sick, and it hit her the worst between Las Vegas and Moab. So we had hotels there too, because you're in an enclosed car and that is not enough distance. Even though we kept everything separate, I mean, we were normal travel mates. This was platonic. It was fine, but when you're that close to somebody in a space, that's just going to happen. So that sucked for her. My mom was gracious enough at the time to let us take her credit card for an emergency, because I was on the other side of the country and she wasn't going to have me out without some sort of way to get out of a situation, I guess. It's just the smart thing to do. And so she gave us permission to put the hotel on that card, so we didn't have to pay for it at the time, and it gave us both some respite. Definitely my travel mate needed that time, because I sat in Starbucks in Malibu in a corner away from everybody working, because I was teleworking for a company at the time, and then I would sleep in the tent and she would sleep in a hammock outside the tent, she was digging that. I didn't make her, she just did it. And she got sick anyway, so there you go. Anyway, that was a really life-altering trip for me. It has changed everything about my life, how I look at life, how choices I've made. When I have notes over here so I don't get too lost. When I was still living in Georgia, which the majority of my life has been in Georgia, 80%. I've lived in Graceville, Florida for a handful of months, maybe 3 months, maybe not even 3 months. Charlotte, North Carolina, about 3 months. Seattle, Washington, about 6 months. So love it there. And Denver, Colorado, about 6 months. Really miss it there too. And here we are in St. Louis, Missouri. So, and I don't have any itch 2 years or otherwise because I am very happy now. I am married. For those of you who use this terminology, it is my first marriage. It will also be my only marriage. But between being a late bloomer and being surrounded by people that got married and hated it, hated aspects of it, didn't think about it all the way through, or it was harder than it should have been. You know, like, you can't help who you love, but that doesn't mean that you're always made to be forever with that person that you love. I have no skin in the game of who anybody chooses to marry, and it just means if you weren't meant to be, or you have too many differences, but you love each other, then it just means you have to work that much harder. I'm very blessed and grateful that my wife does not make me work hard at all. In fact, it is extremely easy to love her and to be with her and to have a wife. I'm sure my family would, other than a couple people, would say they were more what the fuck than anything about it. Some people were not surprised, and some people were like, you know, she's not a guy, right? Yeah, I caught on to that. I am the least favored kind of person in the LGBTQ community. I believe that's still the case. They don't want the B in there because I would technically be considered bisexual, because I always dated men. That was what was expected. And then I got cancer in 2016. 2016. Endometrial cancer. Its scary name is complex hyperplasia with atypia. And it is a result of me having PCOS, which is a whole other illness. I believe it's also autoimmune, but it's so weird how nobody asks me. They could just call it that if they would listen to me. But that caused me, one of the things with PCOS is you don't have normal periods. Sorry for any guys, but you're supposed to be adults, and if you don't know that girls have periods, you need to go look at other videos first. I didn't have a lot of them. I had miscarriages, and I had not a lot of periods. And when I went for I got a new position and was like, hey man, I haven't had insurance in a while. Let's check some stuff out. Let's pop the hood and find that cancer from kind of nowhere. That was actually, it was really lucky because of all the kinds of doctors that I would go to. I had just been to one recently within 2 or 3 years, and they just changed it from, you don't have to go annually unless there was a problem. But because of my PCOS, they did a ultrasound. It is as annoying as it sounds, transvaginal ultrasound, mainly because it's very hard to do a abdominal ultrasound on someone who is fat, because when you're pregnant, you're not fat, you're right there, and that layer of fat is usually around the same, and they can see what they need to see. But for me, it's just fat, so they have to go straight to the source. And apparently my lining had not shed in quite some time, so they did a biopsy, technically a D&C biopsy, and discovered the cancer and gave me my options, which were to have a hysterectomy, or it will progress to a point where it cannot be treated. And I was like, well, that doesn't really sound like a choice, but okay. So I did that. I had they call it a total hysterectomy. So it means that my entire hysterectomy includes my cervix and my fallopian tubes. And the only thing I kept was eggs. And then May of 2018, I lost my left ovary due to repetitious cyst ruptures and a concern for ovarian torsion. Have fun Googling that. So anyway, ever since that surgery, things have kind of started to go a little more downhill, because after my surgery and I recovered from my hysterectomy, the only thing that I did was break my ankle, because if there's something I can do to fall down or run into something or trip over something or, bump into a wall I know is there because I see it all the time, I'm going to do that. I am one of the most accident-prone people alive. I would love to know anybody else has this issue. I don't know what it is. I thought at first when I was much younger, I thought it was because I had gained weight. I'd gained weight so rapidly. And I was just not used to my center of gravity and not used to poking out where I never poked out before. But I've been, I've lost weight and gained weight, but I've been smaller than I am right now. And I know where that wall was, or that curb, or that whatever, and I did it anyway. It didn't matter how much I weighed. It just probably hurt more when I fell. Timber kind of situation. Anyway, so that is when life started to get a little difficult for me, and things started happening. I was already having issues and I didn't know it. My autoimmune hepatitis was already there and I didn't know it. I had a positive ANA when I was 18, 19 years old. Just didn't understand why. Nobody explained it. Nobody told me to go to see a rheumatologist or anybody like that. So I have a late start to an aggressive disease that has no cure. And I want to be able to bring awareness with these videos as well as entertainment. And I'm not gonna lie, I can't just sit here every day and, I can't work. I haven't worked a real job since the end of 2018, November of 18. And this is a really hard point for me because both of my parents instilled work ethics of differing varieties, but one thing for sure that they both agreed on and instilled in me was, you got time to lean, you got time to clean. If you have the ability to work, why aren't you? I started working when I was 15. When I was legally allowed to start working on a payroll, I was. And before that, I was daddy's little helper, just shining shoes, because he worked for a company that doesn't exist anymore, but it was a place where you'd go to get tuxedos for weddings and proms and things like that. And during prom season and wedding season, I'd be so excited because he'd be like, "You want to come to work with Dad?" Absolutely. There's a pile of shoes taller than you in there. Go get them. And I would just sit there and be so excited. I was way more excited to do that and get paid nothing than when I was told that I have a job and now I'm working. It's like, wait a minute. This means I actually have to do stuff like the whole time. That's not fun anymore. I actually really did enjoy that job. It was probably one of the weirdest first jobs for a teenage girl to have. I measured most of most of the students I went to high school with would come in for their stuff because we were the closest one. So I measured a lot of people from my high school, and that made me feel weird, except for when anybody I might have a crush on came in, and I would move their whole order up front. Like if they were picking up their tux, I would put it right up front. I did it. I don't care. I was in charge of that particular thing, and that meant that I had that discretion. If my dad had known I was doing that, since he was the manager there, he probably would have threatened to kill me, which is of course out of love. But anyway, I did have the weirdest first job, but it was really fun. My dad made it really fun, and I got a work ethic. You know, if there was no busy time, then that's inventory time. That's delint all the mannequins, change all the shirts. Just because you have nothing else to do, it's time to change the shirts. Anybody can give you busy work. Never say you're bored. My mother tells the story all the time about how she once told her father, may he rest, told her father that she was bored. And you have to know that, first of all, her father was born in 1898 or 1880. He was in the late 1800s. It doesn't start with 19 anything. So he was a very old school, and he didn't move or even make a change of his face. He just was like, okay, that's a problem with a solution if I ever heard one. You see that pile of bricks? Pick them up one at a time and make a new pile over there. And then once she's been told to do it, she can't not do it, because now the father has spoken and you have to do it. So never say you're bored. Say you're in need of more stimulation. And in that case, make sure you're around people who would understand the context. Otherwise, that might mislead some people. So anyway, again, I graduated high school and tried to go to college. I went away to college my freshman year, and the only thing I got out of that was my first hint at being on my own without adult supervision. And I had just come from a very supervised environment. Dads are usually not very lenient on their, teenage daughters surrounded by teenage boys. Let's just put it that way. I was definitely kept an eye on. I don't know why. I did nothing like that in high school. You could ask my high school boyfriend if he ever wanted to be spoken to about me. I did not do anything in high school that should have gotten me in trouble in that department, but the fears are what they are. We all have them. So I went away my first year of college, and it was fun because nobody told me when to get up or when to go to bed or when to eat or not to eat or what to eat or how much to eat. And so a lot of my weight came back that year. I don't just go for the freshman 15, freshman 50, man, make it count. And I did. So I came home though after that. The only other thing I got out of it was a really good friendship for a really long time. You hear the stories like that best friend from college. It's not always forever, but our friendship was consistent for a couple of decades. So I would say that is still the biggest thing I got out of that, was a really good, reliable couple of decades of friendship. And that friend is also how I met my wife. So we will we'll always have pride. I went back home and decided to do working. I just wanted to work. I wanted to work. Because that's what I knew how to do. I didn't know how to be a good student. I loved being a student. I loved learning. Anybody you can ask. I was in school off and on for a decade. I stopped going to school to go to a different school to be a massage therapist. And then I was a massage therapist for a while. I worked in the banking industry because I love numbers and people, and I feel like I'm called to do something that helps people. So I was that person who would sit at the desk and go through your budget and help you, not your budget, your bank statement, and help you understand where those NSFs came from, or what happened, or where that transaction went, as well as to open accounts and all the other stuff you do at a bank. I always thought that I would end up being a teacher or a nurse or a psychologist. Seriously, those were my three. in all honesty, my true self ambition is to be a comedian, a stand-up comedian, which may not be evident in this video. I'm not really trying, but it's my absolute favorite thing. The only other thing I have that's a favorite is drag shows, and I don't like drag king shows. Maybe I just haven't been to a good one. Not one time. But drag shows are like one of my favorite things on the whole planet. And if I obviously cannot be one because I lack that. I lack many things. But I think it's the most fun. I think that they're daring and brave, and they're like, you know what? I'm taking everything that you think is weird about me, and I'm going to put it on full blast with neon and feather boas and really long nails and eyelashes, and they are going to work it. And I absolutely love it. So that does not help me decide what I want to be when I grow up at all, because I can't be a drag queen. But one thing I have discovered is you don't have to just decide what you want to be one day and then do it. And the people that do are a very different personality from mine. I have a cousin on my mom's side. She's the middle of 3 girls, and they are all accomplished and they are all wonderful young women. But the middle child was always, she would go to bed while we were all like, you know, I was there to visit. They lived in Florida, and it was always fun. And, you know, their dad would take us out on the lake, and we would do the inner tube, and that's faster and that's slower, and it was a really good time. And then me and the eldest and the youngest would all, you know, we'd be having like a little slumber party kind of thing where every now and then you hear the like, shut up. But the middle kid, she went to bed an hour ago because she's tired, and she's stable and kind and all those things. She's a token middle kid. And I mention that because she is someone who could have decided, I think I'm going to go to college to do this, and then I'm going to do that. I don't know if that's how it went, but it's how it looked like it went. Just everything in order and in its place. And I didn't do that. I'm like Pauly Shore. I've majored in almost everything. Seriously, I've had a lot of majors. I ended up getting my Bachelor of Science in psychology. And that, I did it because I was interested in the field, and because the person I was dating at the time made me feel very pressured that I hadn't already graduated. Because when we first started dating, I was going to be really close to graduating a different major. But I switched majors for a couple of reasons, and one of them was to utilize my credits effectively or efficiently and graduate as soon as I could. Never decide your life path for anybody but yourself. For one thing, that person is not my person. I'm not for them, and they were not for me, and I'm very grateful. I'm glad that they at least knew that. They are married, they have their own kids with that married person, and I'm glad they're happy. And I'm glad that even though I was too steeped in my emotions to understand why we weren't supposed to be together, I totally understand why we weren't supposed to be together. It would have been horrible. He would have been horrible. Like, not horrible. He would have been miserable. I would have been miserable. I was already miserable trying to just be what he expected. You know, it was so much pressure. And so never make choices. I also traded my Jeep Wrangler for a car that was safer so that his son would be allowed to ride with me. So those were a couple of really stupid things I did for a person who doesn't even have a purpose in my life anymore other than to reference. And never make a decision about your life path unless it's for yourself. In Georgia, you can't do anything with a psychology degree unless you have a master's. So I said, okay, fine. And I went to work in finance And that's back of the house finance. I got a job with a bank where I was like, I don't want to work in sorry, my brain does this. Branch. I didn't want to work in a branch anymore. I didn't want to be that person anymore. I went to go behind the scenes. So I worked for a very large bank, and I started out in their fraud department and then moved to their collections department, where anybody with the slightest bit of empathy will lose their souls. Not the front end. If you're 30 days late, then it's all like, just making sure you remembered your payment, have a great day. But I got, to the point where if you did well and they liked you on the phone and you got, scores were good and all that, then you got promoted. Let me tell you, getting sent from the first 30 days you're late to right before charge off, that doesn't feel like a promotion. It feels like I did something wrong and they're showing me that they can punish me, even though what it was a promotion. So I kept having phone calls from people so far behind, telling me that they're on their deathbeds, telling me that if I was standing in their doorway with a firing squad threatening to kill them, they still couldn't pay that bill. And at some point, I kind of fell apart. And I took some leave, and I got some intensive outpatient therapy. It was every day. It was for like 4 or 5 hours, and it was like 45 minutes away from my house. And I went back to my job like you're supposed to do. And then I did about a week's worth, and I was like, no, this is not happening. I'm not made for this. I'm not meant for this at all. So then I left. So then I'm like, okay, I have all this experience, I have a degree, and I have no job. So what am I going to do now? Well, I did try and focus on my weight. I tried to focus on doing other jobs. I traveled. In 2014, I lived in Denver and worked, and just a lot of moving and a lot of working random jobs, like giving all credit to the line Wayne's World when he's introducing himself much better than I am, because they had people write the script for him. He shows you a little corkboard and says, let's put it this way. I have an extensive collection of name tags and hairnets. That's me. That's me. Literally, that's me. I don't know why, but now I can't work. So circling back to my point, because I did not forget why I started this whole thing. I haven't worked since the end of 2018. And as you've just heard, that is the opposite of what I'm used to. So it's a combination of issues, but I'm unable to work. My memory is one of those reasons. I was driving the car and had like some sort of moment where I don't think it was a blackout moment. I don't know what it was, but it felt like that moment is missing, because I was kind of curving to the left on an on-ramp, and the next thing I heard was my name being screamed, and I was heading head on to the concrete wall that you're supposed to not run into. And that's one of the things that is affected by my illness. I'm in pain all the time. And because of my liver, I can't take a lot. So not being able to work is, especially with it being ingrained in me that if you can work, you should work. For some reason, I can't reconcile the fact that I can't work, and therefore that's why it's okay. Because it doesn't feel okay. I feel guilty all the time that I'm not working. I feel guilty all the time that my wife has to support us both. I'm waiting for disability, which so is everybody else who's applied. And I hope that I get it. I also hope I don't get it, because it has its own stigma. I feel like, don't other people need it more? And my mom is even saying, like, you shouldn't think of it that way. My dad has said, I know people that have been on it, keeping discretion. I don't know their names, but that he knows of others who have gone through it. And my dad works in HR. So whenever there's an HR question like that, I go his way. And so I can't work and I can't sit around all day thinking about that. And it doesn't do me any good or anybody else any good when that's all I'm doing. So my goal, my hope is that this channel will be mutually beneficial, symbiotic in a way, something that you can get something out of and that I can get something out of. I've already decided that for the unforeseeable future, I'm going to just make videos like I'm planning to. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to create a stream of income. I have created a Patreon page. It's not ready yet, and when it is, I will make a quick video announcement about it. But even the Patreon page, only 25% of anything you pay even goes to me. There'll be 25% for Alzheimer's research, 25% for autism research, 25% for research for autoimmune hepatitis, and then the last 25% is for me and my time and hopefully getting better equipment and things like that, so that I don't have to stay a newbie and be obviously a newbie, because I like to be proficient in what I do, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So I'm sure that, like many people do, the OGs of YouTube, go back and watch their first videos and cringe. So future self, don't cringe. Everybody starts somewhere, right? I've given you guys a lot of information. A couple things I want to tell you that's going to happen on the videos. Maybe every time, maybe not every time. Because these are some serious topics, and as you heard, my real ambition would be to do comedy, to be, even just, catch a rising star. I would be beside myself if someone put me on that stage with a microphone and let me do my comedy. It's all I've ever really wanted to do, but I've tried to do all the other things because I'm raised by parents who also know, being art doesn't pay the bills kind of idea. So that's what I want to do, and maybe I'll get to. In the meantime, I'm trying to have more good days with my autoimmune hepatitis, and I want to bring humor to the channel as much as I can. So there'll be some things like, once I figure out the software stuff, which I'm going to work on. I tried today, and I'm not computer illiterate at all, but when it comes to specific programs, I feel a little bit like I don't speak the language even a little bit. So I'm going to be working on that because I want to be able to make better quality videos and things like that. But in the meantime, it's going to be more like this direct address. I'm trying to get good. This is natural lighting. I have a huge window here that overlooks the arch, so it's pretty nice. When I can do the software, I will include outtakes because I love that. When you watch a movie and then at the end there's the outtakes and you're getting to see the actors trying to be actors, whether they're male or female. I think you should just call them actors. Why do we have to actress? Why do we have to genderize things? If you are acting like someone else, you are an actor. That's where that should end, but that's my own personal opinion thrown in for no reason at all. So there will be outtakes. There will be gratitude. There will be gratitude for someone. There will be a shout out to someone. And I have a little segment that I like to call side effects. So I'm going to do two things today to end this video. The first one, I have to look it up because I don't have it memorized. So and I have maybe the DMV's computer is slower, but probably not. So first of all, a big shout out. My first shout out has to go to the first person I ever saw on YouTube who made me go watch YouTube and completely fall in love with it, the concept of it, and it has blown up and gotten super professional. Like, I am blown away, and that's why I'm saying, like, I'm gonna get on it as quick as I can to meet your level of expectation, because I get it. But my shout out is for the Jenna Marbles. She is hilarious. She's authentic. She doesn't, when she edits stuff, sometimes she edits it to make herself look more retarded than she was in the first place. She takes on hilarious roles of people. I'm talking back in the day where she was still a go-go dancer, and she couldn't go to some sort of, she couldn't go somewhere where she was going to be wearing a bikini at the beach. So she set up her laptop and laid out in the sun in her bikini in the room she recorded in. And that's all it took, It's like, hey, plus, if anybody here doesn't know who Jenna Marbles is, I don't understand you. But since most people probably do, you also know that she'd have a much easier time getting people to like her channel by simply wearing a bikini than I would. That would probably be the opposite response. So thank you, Jenna Marbles, for being one of the foundation OG YouTube personalities that made it seem possible, that made me laugh. And for the record, one of my favorite videos is what a girl's hair means, what guys do in the bathroom, and we should be each other's boyfriends song that she does. So thank you very much, Jenna Marbles. You are a trailblazer, and you know it. And Julian, and you are awesome. And I think you are a great pair, and I love seeing you guys making content together. So now, that is my shout out. Now what I'd like to do is bring you to the segment we call side effects. So what I'm going to talk about is one of the drugs that I'm likely going to have to take the rest of my life because of this autoimmune hepatitis. Right now I'm taking prednisone and azathioprine. All right, so the goal is to reduce the prednisone and increase the azathioprine, also known as Imuran or Imuran. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's why, for me, the bigger word is easier. I don't know why. That's the immunosuppressant. It's basically a chemo drug. It's a chemo pill. So I am going to read you the side effects for azathioprine, because prednisone is well known. It's pretty well known. Those side effects are horrible. I've had a few of them, but not so much that I don't need to complain about it or anything. It's just, actually, I think my wife probably has caught more of the brunt of the side effects of prednisone, because you turn into kind of a beast, no filter, no ability to be tactful. You just are like, and then you get the look, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's prednisone. And that'll work for a little while, or it'll continue to if you have a wife or a spouse like I do. But the bringing down of prednisone and bringing up of azathioprine is actually a part of the treatment goal for autoimmune hepatitis, because it's supposed to be that this stops my body from attacking my liver so that it doesn't get any further damage. Because I have cirrhosis, I can't take the alternate medication that starts with a B. It's like furosemide or something like that. That would have been better, less harsh. Because once you have cirrhosis, you can't do that. If you have fibrosis, yes, but which just means scarring. But cirrhosis is scarring damage worse. Like fibrosis is about the thickness of it, the texture of it, and once you get to cirrhosis, the liver cannot regenerate itself anymore. So we have to just try and make it stop what it's doing. So I don't know what is happening with this situation with our internet, but it's really annoying me right now. I can't find it. Let's see, side effects. Side effects, azathioprine. Just want to read something. I don't understand. So basically, it's more commonly used in autoimmune disorders as well as in post-transplant patients, particularly for kidney transplant patients. So it lowers your immune system drastically, which was really fun knowing I just started this program, and then the news was like, hey, you remember that virus that wasn't gonna do anything and was just gonna go away? It didn't. And that's why I got tested, because if I catch that, I will die. There's just no way around that. I have asthma, I have scarring on both of my lungs, and I'm taking immunosuppressants, and I'm fat, which they've come up with as another really huge risk factor. Obesity being the only underlying symptom can still be what causes someone to not survive catching the virus, which is just very interesting if you ask me, which you didn't, so that's okay. I'm gonna try one more thing and then I'm going to give up and be better prepared next time. I will go ahead and tell you one of the side effects is hair loss. And when I read that, of course, it's a chemo drug, so of course you're gonna potentially have hair loss. But I already have hair loss from PCOS. So right now, for instance, what you see isn't even as worse as it could be, because I told you I got a little zooted up for you, including, I'm gonna show you this product, tell you about me using it, but I do not have any affiliation with them. I'm not being paid to say anything. I don't know them. They don't know me. I got this randomly at a food pantry when my wife and I were so poor. We had no food. And that was new for us. Everybody that has to go through it has to go through it, I guess. If you haven't had to, I'm very glad. And please, I hope you never have to. But since we had to, it was very random. I think whoever contributed, somebody worked at a salon, because there was stuff like this in big, huge bottles of shampoo like they have at hair salons. So that's where I'm thinking, it was like, here, donate this to the food pantry for people. It's called Carafiber. It's, if you remember the movie Shallow Hal, and he, is AstroTurf, what they joke about, it's the same kind of concept, except it doesn't do it that badly. And if you comb it through, my hair's not quite long enough for this to really look right, but if you put it in and comb it through, you don't look like you have no hair unless you get up on, unless you're like, well, I can tell you have no hair. You also have you get hair loss from this. So I had been going back and forth about whether or not I was gonna wear a wig, and I just decided I will wear a wig for things that I want to wear a wig for. Like if I'm going to an event, or when my wife and I finally get to have an actual wedding, because we didn't get to have an actual wedding because of my ovary rupturing all the time. We had to cancel that. And we just, City Hall, we are married legally, whether it's holy or not. And yeah, they have a thing in there, the script, that literally, we're here to join person A and person B in holy matrimony. But if you're a same-sex couple, he literally was like, we're here to join my name and her name in matrimony. Like, and redacting it in real time. It's like, well, it doesn't have to be holy as long as it's legally binding. I want to actually be married to her. He was a very nice guy, a nice judge. I don't think that it was anything about him. It's just they have rules they have to follow like everybody else. So, I have been trying to wax and keep your attention enough so that I can tell you these side effects. It's just funny. It's like, I'm sorry, but it's just funny. We're going to give you this brand of drug to help save your life, right? And I think of those the TV ads, which now, you're accosted with them on everything else. I'm sure you'll get ads on my stuff too, and I'm sorry. So the side effects include nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, rash, fever. Oh wait, there's more. It brought me to a whole other page. Like, wait, like the credit card bill, envelope 1 of 2. Okay, this seems to be applying to ulcerative colitis, but since I have IBS, it's not potato, but I'm taking the same drug. So, let's see here. The benefit of the drug is supposed to be to reduce inflammation, keeping symptoms in checks, and lowering your chances of a flare-up. I will go ahead and say I still notice when I'm having a flare-up with this medication, so right now I know my dose is not right. I know that my dose for prednisone needs to start coming down immediately, and I know that my dose of azathioprine needs to start going up as quickly as we can. You also have an increased risk if taking Imuran, IMURAN, or azathioprine. Google that one. It increases your risk of skin cancer. Eleanor, don't mess with my stuff. That's a good girl. Sit down. I'm almost done talking to our friends. Okay? She's really annoyed about not having attention, so we'll be wrapping it up in a minute. But you get an increased risk of certain types of cancer, including skin cancer and lymphoma. And lymphoma, of course, is a cancer that affects your immune cells. And without being dramatic or holy cow, the lymph node under my left armpit is not happy today. There's a million reasons that could be the case, but that is where there are lymph nodes as well. So I keep track of every little thing because I won't know what's relevant. I've never gone through this. I'm just going to take off I need new glasses that don't fall down my face, apparently, because that's all they do. You also have increased for infections, of course, of any kind, but more concerningly, fungal bacteria and protozoal. Now, a spore is like the worst one. One of my name tags and hairnet jobs allowed me to learn this. I worked for a company that dentist office and tattoo parlors would send in their autoclaved instrument test packet, the little thing they put their tools in to guarantee you that when they're doing your dental work or putting on your new tattoo, that they're not giving you anything like viral hepatitis or something else that is contagious or gross. And that's why I had to learn about it in the first place. So the goal was it would be at the level of killing any spores, because spores are way at the top of being really hard to kill. So if that's effective, then everything under that, virus, bacteria, fungal, all of that gets taken care of. That's my understanding based on that job. If I'm wrong, I was told wrong at that job. So, you can also get pancreatitis, which I really did think I had the other day. It is really painful, but I got a CT scan and they swear that pancreas looks good. Of course, they can only see so much, but because it is a CT, it does the slice where they can see, the depth of everything. So they would have seen if there was something major going on. So it was probably just a flare issue or some other kind of pain that I have. Dizziness, muscle aches, tiredness, fever, rash, those are all things that can happen. They're also all things that are symptoms of my disease in the first place, which is what makes it so annoying. And the biggest thing is the things that you can't take or that you have to avoid. Like, I have to avoid the sunlight for exposure, light exposure for a long period of time, because that will apparently give me skin cancer or some kind of cancer. And anyway, I have really bad low vitamin D too, so I have to supplement because I can't get it naturally by just going outside. That's the easiest way to get vitamin D, just go outside. But I can't do that. I could today because it's overcast. But I have to take something. So anyway, those are some side effects. So either way, I'm going to have hair loss. So I've just decided I'm probably just keep my head shaved and use wigs when I want to, like when we have our wedding or whatever. And I promise I will work very hard to try and improve the quality of these videos. This is a really, really long video, but I watched a bunch of videos about how to start a YouTube channel because I like to do research, and they all, not one of them did not say, they all did say that the longer videos are preferred. I used to think it was like, if it was more than like 7 minutes, you were like, nope, you're cut off. Maybe things have changed since the last time I tried to do anything on here, but if this was too long, just leave a comment and you can, if everybody agrees it's too long, then I will work on it being shorter. Please comment any other suggestions or thoughts or questions you have. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want notifications of when I post new videos, you can hit the bell. If you don't want to be bothered and want to check it on your own time, that's fine too. But make sure to subscribe, and we will be getting into lots of fun content this coming week. I am probably going to do a combo on Wednesday for medical. Low battery on my phone. I'm probably going to do a combination on Wednesday for Medical Monday and vlog. My Wednesdays are for vlogs where there's not really a script. There's a specific thing I may want to talk about, or it may be, the illness or something else. But I'm probably going to combine those two because I know that I won't be ready for a quality video for Medical Monday tomorrow. Thank you everybody for watching and for enduring, and I really look forward to the growth in this channel. And I also want to remind you, after I get the first 50 subscribers, I will go live and we'll talk about whatever you want. So I hope everybody has a really great Easter weekend, however you choose to celebrate it. Here's my thing. What did I do with it? I had a paper about Ishtar and the true origin of Easter. It relates to fertility, which is why we transitioned to the Easter eggs and fertility and the bunny and all that. I think I mentioned at the beginning, but I'm not mentioning religion on the channel. So however, I celebrated Easter just as a kid, getting an Easter basket for many years before somebody told me there was any other way to think of it. So however you choose to enjoy your Easter, I hope that you are enjoying it or that you have enjoyed it. And I will be back next time. Till then, stay classy. No, that doesn't work, does it? I'm supposed to have a thing I do when I sign on and sign off, and one of my favorite people just does like a fist bump, another one does a noise, but I'll work on it. I'll see you later.